I remember saying to a fellow one day, I said, how are things going for you? Oh, they're great. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. He's very busy. It's awesome. Very doing a lot of stuff. And I looked him right in the eye. We were sipping coffee. And I said, I wonder if you're selling yourself short. That question changed the trajectory of that guy's life.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to Life in a Show. I'm your host, Jason Wojo. On Life in a Show, we help people make more, work less, and live better. I am joined by Polish Peter. What's up, dude?
Hey, man. So I'm looking forward to this episode because for some reason, I just had my ChatGPT AI step in to do an interview for me and it didn't show up. So it was just you.
Yeah, it was just me and Dan, man. I just gave it away. We are speaking with Dan Rockwell today, man, who I'm super excited. If you're a listener that's into leadership, you probably already know who Dan is. He is the author of the Leadership Freak blog, which, by the way, he's been, this guy has over 500,000 subscribers to his blog. He's been writing essentially like every weekday for like the past decade and a half on leadership. And we have him on the Life in Our Show to talk about leadership. It's an awesome interview, man.
Yes. One of the coolest things I like about this interview is towards the end, he talks about monkeys. And I know it's kind of a weird thing, like monkey, what are you talking about? But I would encourage you to go and listen to that particular part, to stay tuned, listen, because it can really help you tremendously. If you're a leader, if you're a company owner, if you're a parent, you got kids, I think that little tip is going to help you tremendously.
Yeah, man, there's tons of nuggets in this episode. And quite frankly, man, I'm asking him half of these things for my own benefit. This is one of the cool things about this show. Like, I need to know this stuff too.
So we're going to have a fun dissecting this at the end.
That's right. Here we go. Let's go right now. Here's our interview with Dan Rockwell. Dan, what's up, man? I'm so excited to have you on the Life in Your Show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Jason. It's a pleasure.
Dan, you so for our listeners that don't know you, I got to tell you in this, and you may hear this a lot, but you're kind of like a leadership legend. Like, you have been cited as one of the most frequently, referenced authors, one of the most frequently referenced contributors, thought leaders, someone who's culminated a tremendous body of work revolving around leadership. You have a blog. I'm gonna have you announce it. I want to build that up for you, which I love the name of that, by the way. It's amazing. So, but I want to know, like, what is it about leadership that drew you to it so strongly? And your blog's been going since 2010. You've been talking and teaching and preaching on leadership for going on 14 years now. What's held your interest and why is this such a powerful topic?
Oh, man, I am exhausted. Holy cow. 14 years.
14 years. That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Yeah. Thanks so much for reminding me. Oh, my word. Right. So, dissatisfaction is the motivation behind Leadership Freak. That is the name of the blog, Leadership Freak. And I thought I was a wonderful leader. I thought I was doing a great job. Come to find out, I sucked at it. I was not good at all. And I love these times in life where we go through dissatisfaction with ourselves. If we can have, we can navigate our way through and grow and get better. And so I started writing Leadership Freak for myself. I was fortunate that other people seemed to resonate with it. I made a commitment. I was going to write it 5 days a week for a year, which I had no idea what that meant. None. I didn't know what that meant. I'd only written contracts and I'd only written school papers and all of that other kind of stuff. But I just set out on doing it, and it did get traction. I'm thankful for that. And the rest is history. It literally changed our lives. I had no big goal except I knew I wanted to write for myself. And so what appears on the page is the way I want it to look. The length is short because I have a short attention span. The whole thing, I just write it for myself and then give it away. And all the books you see behind me, almost all of the books you see behind me have been sent to me over the years by publishers and authors. And they want, me to mention their their work. And then I started realizing I could actually talk to these people. And boy, that was just fantastic, So, and then a year and a half in, I got an invitation to speak. I came home that day from, I worked at the local Penn State affiliate. I came home and I announced to my wife, we can make money doing this. And we both laughed. It's like, I didn't even know what content marketing was.
You literally just started with this idea of like, it almost sounds like you're kind of journaling to yourself, like hey, here's some things that I need to work on and I can improve, and I can now share my own places that require improvement with others, and hopefully they will also see utility from it too.
Well, the secret behind what you read on the page is that you do sort of see my life, not 100%, because I have lots of conversations with leaders now, and those are very informative, and I learn a lot from people, and so sometimes that's what's going out. But yes, I was writing it, and I think here's a big part of this, and again, probably not what everybody wants to hear, but frustration was also behind it. And so things that frustrated me about leadership or about myself, those were also topics. And even today, on the day that we're recording this, I wrote about meetings. And I have been in so many meetings that just suck the life out of you. You know what I mean? So that riles me up. It's very easy for me to write that way. Here's the thing, though. We can use dissatisfaction, we can use frustration, but we have to turn it and make it useful and find the positive side. So it's not like I'm going to pretend that I'm not disappointed, or I'm going to pretend that I'm not angry. I'm like, oh, I got to feel good. I got to feel good. It's using that frustration to say, well, what do you want there, big boy? What is making this better? And so it's not noble, but it's the truth that a lot of that just comes out of my own angst, however you want to say it.
Mm. Do you find, and the reason I'm asking so much about this is because I've found, and by the way, I'm working on a book right now as well, and one of the parts of the book is involves how to kind of delegate people responsibilities and tasks and do a good job and oversee them without micromanaging, all this other kind of stuff. And through this process of writing, I've realized how much more in depth this really can be than I can give it justice. And and I look at your blog, and you have, I think, 730 pages of content. And I was like, it's something that I think many times is underappreciated, not only in terms of what it takes to really be a good leader, but the effort involved in becoming one. And so and the reason I'm asking about this as well is because I think, leadership, it's not just if you're a CEO of business. You could be a department leader. You're a leader of your family. You could be a leader in your relationship. You can be a leader of all sorts. And so I'm curious for you, do you see recurring patterns that someone who's becoming interested in becoming a leader, where they should they start to focus? What are some of the things they need to start worrying about? Is it tactics? Is it strategies? Is it character? Is it, there's so many different parts of this. I don't even know how to summarize it well.
Yes, and congratulations on working on your book, Jason. It took me 10 years to actually, drum up the chutzpah to dare to actually start this project that is coming to completion here soon. So congratulations on that. So I started the journey, and I still write every day, thinking a lot about how to do stuff, how to delegate, how to run great meetings, how to hold good one-on-ones, how to coach your team, those kind of things. About 10 years ago, I had 3 conversations in the course of 3 months. This is the answer to, where do you think you start? Okay. So I had 3 conversations in the course of 60 days. And one of them, the first one was with the CEO of Southwest Airlines, during 9/11. So he wasn't at that time, but during 9/11, Jim Parker. Fantastic. I said, Jim, tell me, what do you like to tell leaders? He said, I like to tell leaders, be yourself. That is the most underwhelming thing I had ever heard. I thought that's ridiculous. You're the CEO of Southwest Airlines. I could do a better job than you. Look, I'm originally from Central Maine. I grew up milking dairy cows on a farm. We're not worried about being yourself. We're worried about getting the chores done, right? And that's the doer, right? That's the doer side. You got to have the doer. All successful leaders know how to get stuff done. However, so that conversation set with me. And a little while later, in that 60 days, I had a conversation with Frances Hesselbein. Frances Hesselbein is a rock star in leadership circles, was a rock star in leadership circles, passed away. And she was CEO of Girl Scouts. She got the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her contribution to society. She said, I thought when I showed up, I should try to say something intelligent. When I talked to her, she told me this. I should try to say something intelligent, which is scary enough. And so she said, I gave my definition of leadership. And my definition of leadership is leadership is a matter of how to be, not how to do. Okay, that's right next to be yourself in my world. It's like, I'm like a gerbil on an exercise wheel. What the heck are you talking about? Right? So these little breadcrumbs of what I'm calling today identity-based leadership. In other words, what is authentic leadership? We lead out of who we are. And when we get to the doing first, you see, now leaders do this all the time. They lose themselves to the doing. Now life loses its energy for them. Now they find themselves very disappointed, even though they may be doing very well. So that was the second conversation with Frances Hesselbein. I still didn't get it because I need to have some sort of how-to. So toward the end of that 60-day period, I had a conversation with Harry Kramer. Harry Kramer was the CEO of Baxter Pharmaceutical, global company, tens of thousands of employees. When he was in college, he met this girl and they fell in love, and her dad heard they were serious. And he invited Harry to come and visit over the Christmas break. Now, they hadn't been engaged or anything yet, but he wanted to get to know Harry. So he invites Harry to, I think it was Wisconsin, in the middle of the winter. It's like, hold it. Couldn't we just go to Palm Beach? I'm like, and so anyway, he gets off the plane. Tom Jansen, this is the girl's dad, says to Harry Kramer, I have plans for us. Now, about that time, I'm ready to take my bags and get back on the airplane. I'm thinking, I don't know. And then I think, maybe I know what the plans are. The plans are we're going to sit in the basement and drink beer and watch football. Or we're going to go kill something in the woods, right? We're going to go hunting. Or we're going to go, whatever we're going to do. You're going to do man stuff. Tom Jansen took Harry Kramer on a 3-day silent retreat. Harry said to me, and after the conversation, I wrote a blog about it. The first line was this: I just hung up the phone with Harry Kramer and my ear is on fire. Harry talks like a machine gun shoots. He said, Dan, I hadn't been quiet for 3 minutes, much less 3 days, in my entire life. He said, changed my life. And from then on, Harry, all his life, for decades now, Harry has not missed that silent retreat. He has dedicated himself to a daily practice of self-reflection. He said, changed my life. Put these together now. I started to see, what does it mean? How could we do this? Be yourself. Leadership is a matter of how to be, not how to do. Frances Hesselbein. And then we got Harry Kramer, who says, you need a daily practice of self-reflection, not just and not just hugging a tree and thinking about, I'm one with the universe. Nothing wrong with meditating, nothing wrong with any of that. However, I think a structured self-reflection is perhaps the thing that is missing on the leadership journey for so many people and for so many of us, because we're so dedicated to get stuff done. I ask the people I work with, the young leaders that I work with and coach, about the third conversation in, I'll say, tell me about your self-reflection practice. They look at me like a cow looks at a new gate. It's like, what are you talking about? Mm. And so, introducing this in the book, The Vagrant, that it's just coming out on the 12th of September. In the back, after you read the story, in the back there are 5 structured self-reflection practices. Some of them surprising, so that it'll help leaders become who they are and then lead out of who they are instead of what everybody's expecting them to do or be.
Mm. So that's fascinating. And I think it gives a real foundational kind of cornerstone approach to which later add on the specific skills and the intricacies of how to make decisions and everything else, but that's the foundation. Tell me what, and I want to get to the book in a moment, but before you do that, you mentioned, I think of self-reflection, I think of doing all of these things. And I also believe that these things are important to a leader in regards to other parts of their life. And with Life in Air, one of the things that we're really passionate about is like, hey, we want you to have the business. We want you to make the money. We want you to love what you do. And we want to make sure it's also congruent with other parts of your life. And so the self-reflection that you mentioned and all these other components also seem to me to spill over quite strongly into these other areas as well. Can you tie that together for me and talk to me about the skills, that foundational piece, leadership, and how it applies to other areas of life other than just in the boardroom, for instance?
Okay, so you want to focus on how leadership applies to other areas of life, not how self-reflection applies to other areas of life.
Well, I just want to. Yeah, like let's talk about leadership, but it seems like self-reflection is part of that, because it almost seems like I took self-reflection as being like, hey, I'm gonna take a hard, focused look at how I'm doing and be honest with myself as to my results and what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, and make sure it's all in alignment with what I'm trying to accomplish. And I don't know if I misinterpreted what you. That's how I took self-reflection.
That's awesome. Yeah. So let's talk about leadership in all of life. Let's start there. If you are in contact with someone else and you have any measure of influence, then you're leading a relationship. If you have children, you're leading your children. If you have neighbors and you're in a relationship with your neighbors, there's leadership there. It's not just your team at work. It's not just customers and all of those kind of things. And so what do we mean by that? And I think it's really creating a shared future and on yourself. The first person to lead is yourself. And if you don't know yourself, then it's impossible to lead yourself. So, but influencing yourself, influencing others toward this a preferred future. When you think about children, what does a preferred future look like? And so I got to tell you, man, so often we don't really have a good picture of what we want. I'll give you a specific example. So I'll never forget my wife. I've been married for ever since I was 10. And so a long time, and happily so. And occasionally we have arguments. And I remember one day years ago, we were having an argument, which I do not remember what it was about. And then I can still see my wife's hand on we got lever handles in our house on the doors, and she's going to step out onto the back deck, and she's reaching for the lever. And I said, "What do you want?" And she said, without hesitation, I want you to touch me more. Now, first of all, the vulnerability and courage to say what you really want is rare. And I'm so thankful she said that. And, life gets going and you're busy achieving and, the relationships can, take the toll. And I thought about that for about a microsecond. And I said, I can do that. And I will tell you this, ever since that day, I hardly ever walk by her without putting my hands on her in some way, on her shoulder or, whatever, pats, hugs. I mean, and so if you know what you want, and some of that is from the inside, it's not like, $1 million is great, but you know what happens when people get $1 million, what do they want?
Yeah.
They want another $1 million. It's like, that's not satisfying. It's the pursuit that is satisfying, right? It's the reaching for a goal. And so, she explained what she wanted. I wanted the same thing. And so, very easy to achieve. And I've been doing that ever since. So anyway, it begins with what's on the inside, and then you find ways to express it on the outside. It just helps if you know what you're aiming for.
When you said you have to lead yourself first, talk to me about the apparent discrepancy I see in people where, let's say, for instance, I think a lot of people have a tendency to do more for other people than they do for themselves. So, for instance, like they'll be willing to extend themselves to help somebody who's in a situation, or and those boundaries maybe get violated, but they don't take care of themselves. Is that a discrepancy in being able to lead themselves in terms of their ability to figure out what's most important to them and follow up on that, or look at themselves with enough value? Like, because I'm wondering, like, okay, so it's like the person, for instance, who maybe isn't healthy telling other people how to get in shape, or it's somebody who doesn't have money giving advice on how to, and so talk to me about that a little bit, because I see that a lot. Like, what's behind that?
Yes, overgiving, neediness. I'm a people pleaser. I think needing to please people. So now you start to say yes when you say no. You start to do things that you shouldn't do because you're trying to, serve other people's interests. And I know you're not. I'm not espousing a self-centered life. That's a very small life, right? You just start sinking inward on yourself. Nobody, I would think, in their right mind would encourage that sort of living. That's black hole living, right?
Yeah.
We just spiral inward. But in order to serve, in order to contribute, there needs to be self-awareness, self-knowledge. You need to know what your best contributions are. You need to know how you can contribute. And then when somebody comes to you and says, well, would you like to be involved in this project? You think about, I don't know anything about that project. What's my contribution? I don't have any. You say, that seems like a wonderful project. I don't really think I can contribute much to that. I appreciate you asking. Thank you. And, we're done. Say no. What you're getting at, though, is self-care, which is a big thing these days. It troubles me on one hand and delights me on the other. On one hand, it's like, enough already. Right?
Yeah.
I keep hearing, like, I got to have me time. I got to have rest. Well, then get it. But self-care is so essential. And the reason to do it, to take care of yourself, is so that you can grow yourself, so that you can contribute effectively. We just have to realize, and this, Jason, what you knew and what you were able to do 10 years ago, 20 years ago is way less than what you can do now and how you can contribute now. Why? Because you've grown. You've grown as a person. You've grown your skill sets. You've grown your strategies and techniques. You're working hard at knowing how to communicate well. You're working hard now at writing. By the way, I'm going to recommend a book to you on writing that you might enjoy, but we'll do that later. Anyway, Yeah, self-care in the service of being able to serve others better makes all the sense in the world to me. Self-care as an end in itself is a dead end. Yeah. I don't want to hear about it.
So before we get back into this episode, I want to share something really important with you. One of the things that me and Wojo do here, and we've been doing this for over probably 8-10 years now, is we've been running these events called Get a Life Getaway. And in these events, you sit down and you work on your entire life. You work on your vision for your entire life. And we literally dive into every single area of your life to show you, to help you create the vision that you truly deserve. Because if you notice from the episodes that we've been recording here over the years, is this vision is so important. It's probably one of the biggest missing elements in anyone's success. And if you look at the successful people that you see in life, they have some form of a vision that they follow. So I want to encourage you to go and check out one of our events. We do these events throughout the year. We have tens of thousands of people gone through these events, created their vision, and you'll be shocked to see what kind of a life they're able to create because of that. So head over to lifeonair.com. That's lifeonair.com. At the top of the page, there's a tab called Events. Click on that tab, and you're going to see everything that you need to know about that specific event, when it's held, where it's held, and how to get there. Now, here is the cool thing. Because you are a listener to our podcast, we want to give you 50% off coupon. Actually, we'll give you a little code that when you go to the checkout page, on the right side, you're going to see a promo code area. Put this word in there, podcast. Podcast, hit apply, and you're going to get instantly 50% off coupon. Head over to the page. Don't delay. Do it right now before you go and do something else. All right, let's get back into the episode.
I mean, now you've spanned over a decade, basically a decade and a half of leadership.
Thanks again.
I know. Yeah, right. Have you seen any trends in leadership that have either gone the wrong, what you consider to be the wrong way, or things that maybe in the past weren't accepted that now have become more mainstream and common? Like, what are you seeing in the general atmosphere of leadership?
Well, I think the ideas about identity-based leadership or authentic leadership that go all the way back, like Warren Bennis and some of these early writers, I think those ideas are getting traction. Emotional intelligence is obviously getting traction. Team emotional intelligence is getting traction. Obviously, strength-based leadership, those kind of things are all sort of a wave. I think that's important. When you think about patterns, negative patterns, here's what I notice. And it isn't necessarily one negative pattern, but when we get under stress, when the financials start going down, we start to revert to old ways and comfortable ways of thinking. And so when we're stressed, or when, again, the economy's going down and we're struggling financially, things like emotional intelligence actually become more important, but we set them on the shelf, and then we go around and now we're out there kicking butt, because now we just have to crack the whip, and we don't understand performance obviously is about high standards, high expectations, and deep relationships, right? So we get the best performance out of the people who we are most connected with. Just ask yourself the question: if you're looking at the people around the table and they all dislike you, do you think they're going to actually give you their best? Right. I mean, there is a relational side to this, to results.
Well, and this is something I found myself as a leader struggling with, is so for instance, I remember my high school track coach who used to work us hard, and I always respected him, and he got a lot out of us, and I excelled a lot. And then I went to college, and I did track in college, and our coach was much more of kind of the friendly coach who didn't really work us as much, and I didn't do as well. And so in the back of my head, I'm thinking gosh, what is that what is that balance? I feel like leadership to me, it's not just I think of like a seesaw where like one side goes up, the other side goes down, but it's actually like, it feels more like a Bosu ball where like there's multi-dimensionals of balancing. And I've always kind of questioned myself as to like, how do you know the right balance? Is it different? Maybe it's different per person. Like you got to really look at the individual too.
It's a wonderful question and thing to reflect on, because I think you're exactly right. The leaders who, I think leaders, they swing back and forth, or some of them fit into like really great relationally, but really poor in results, or really great in results, really poor relationally. And the trick here, and I don't mean to say trick, but the thing to bring together is obviously great relationships and great results. And I bet you this: your high school coach, you love him, he loved you. He was committed to your success without a question. He was not a jerk. Now, he might have been a jerk sometimes when he was kicking butt, but you knew he was working for you and he wanted to see your best. Now, he also advantaged, right? He got an advantage. He got a reputation as a good coach. I think let me give a practical suggestion on this. I think there is a way to maintain, there is a way to maintain high standards and strong relationships. And the first is just exactly what you know from your coach. I will do anything to help you succeed. I'm more committed to your success than you are. I'm staying up at night thinking about how to make our team better, how I can be better, how I can help you be. I mean, everybody needs to know that. I think also in conversation, and I'm a huge fan of one-on-ones at some cadence, but I think in those one-on-ones, the question might be, when someone, you say, what's the goal for this week? What's the goal for this month? And you say, that's a great goal. What does it look like for you to raise that? What does it look like for you to stretch yourself? I remember saying to a fellow one day, I said, how are things going for you? Oh, they're great. I'm doing this. He's very busy. It's awesome. Doing a lot of stuff. And I looked him right in the eye. We were sipping coffee. And I said, I wonder if you're selling yourself short. That question changed the trajectory of that guy's life. Just pressing people. And the other thing is, a customer-driven organization sometimes has got to put their head down, tighten up their belt, and do extra hours and work hard to meet a customer requirement or something that went off the track, right? It's not like, oh, I got to go home and take care of myself. No, you got to tighten up your belt and you got to do what you got to do. And tomorrow night we'll take care of that. There are times for that. Now be careful, because sometimes crisis becomes a daily occurrence.
Right.
And, but anyway, back to the idea of help people challenge themselves. Or if you say to people who respect you, I think you got more in you, that means a lot. You don't have to necessarily, and here's the thing, Jason, high school coaching, sports coaching, I like to watch football, when they're practicing, or coaches, maybe they don't do it like they did in high school and college, but you know what I'm saying? Sports analogies have some application to leadership. But on the other hand, we're talking about big boys and girls now. We're not talking about, winning the state championship. We're talking about other kinds of things, and not necessarily just physical straining yourself, but other kinds of exercise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I find that I love what you said, relationships and results. Like you can have both. And in fact, it feels like you mentioned as well, the stronger the relationship is, the better results will come from that. what are some ways that leaders can have discussions with their direct reports or other employees or other people to let them know that, you know, the like, I guess what I'm asking is like, how do you when somebody's dropping the ball or they're not pulling their weight, how can you do this in a way that doesn't jeopardize the relationship?
Well, you may jeopardize a relationship, and that's okay,
Okay.
because you don't want to use a relationship as a coddling tool or as a blanket to coddle someone into something less than they should be or could be, or in ways that are harming the organization. So sometimes people will be upset with you. No question, no problem. But there's something they never need to doubt, and it goes back to your high school coach, and that is that you are committed to their success. Mm. And this brings me, I think, to one of the things to do in these conversations, and that is talk about what are your goals, personal goals, not just what are your career goals, not just the numbers, but talk about your personal goals, your family goals, life goals, career goals. Tell me about what your aspirations are for yourself, so that you can, and write this down. I keep notes on all my conversations. Write this stuff down, and then keep bringing it up to them. You said you were working for advancement, and how's that going for you? What are you doing to gain advancement? Well, I'm just doing my job, and you're going to say to them, "It's not going to get you where you want to go." You're just going to say the hard truth. Let me help you. How can I help you, get where you want to go? Is there a relationship you need to develop? Perhaps a relationship with someone else will help you advance your career. You know what I mean? There's someone in the organization you need to know. Mm-hmm. There's, you know what I mean? There's a project over here that you might need to add to your bucket. But it's all built on, I'm seeking to advantage you. And in the process, we're advantaging our company. Now, if advantaging you doesn't advantage it disadvantages the company, you need to go. You don't fit in our company. It's not a personal thing. It's like, no, it's good for you to go somewhere where it's to your advantage to thrive, because the company thrives too.
So, and when you say the company, would you say this is, and Dan, I got to tell you, you're opening up a can of worms here for me, because I have the more you talk, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, I've always been wondering about this, and I need to pick his brain right now. So, I got, if you have time, I have a few more questions.
Go for it.
Should a leader be friends with, should they be friends? Like, should they actually hang out with someone who they are managing or leading? Like, so let's say
if you can also, yes, if you can also have those tough conversations.
Okay.
If it prevents you from doing that, then I would suggest you learn how to. I was asked this one. I was in Chicago for a major hardware chain, international hardware chain, doing a keynote. And afterwards, one of the people in the audience says, "Can you be friends with your team?" And I said, yes, but you have to be able to do the tough things, have the hard conversations, high standards, challenge people. This is who we are. This is what we do. We reach high here. That's what we're all about. And so it is a difficult path to walk for lots of people. I agree.
Well, I've seen it more so from the perspective of, and from the employee's perspective, I've seen employees that get comfortable with their boss, and therefore their respect and the authority of the boss seems to be undermined, not from the leader's perspective, but from the employee's perspective, because now, they're just one of us now, and so that's I guess something to be aware of as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going awry. And that's where the leader has not been leading, right? Mm-hmm. They've just been the relationship side of things. Yeah. And they've just been buddies. And it feels great. But we still have to bring up those tough things, challenge those behaviors, set the goals. And if goals are too low, let's challenge the goals. Bring up self-defeating behaviors, bring up things that are not helpful, that the person is doing. And here's the thing. If you're a parent, you sort of get this. Hey, trash has got to go out, right? That's the bottom line. Trash has got to go out. And it's not like, well, they're going to go to the Little League game. And it's like, all right, I'm not going to the Little League game and cheer for you because, you know what I mean? We know how to have relationships and also expect people to perform.
That's awesome. And I just want one more thing before I want to talk about the book as well, is you mentioned earlier kind of jumping in and doing tasks like to show your, I guess, support, and that you're in there in the ditches with them when it's required and you're in the trenches. Talk to me about that. So I've heard perspectives on both sides. Some people are like, no, you should be working in the higher end things, the higher leverage activities, the more visionary, the more important things that are you're casting visions, things like that. And I've heard other people say, no, you need to go alongside of your employees and do things with them to show them that you're not above them, and you'll do what it takes as well. And I'm guessing the balance maybe is somewhere in between there, but what are your perspectives and thoughts on that?
Well, you asked earlier about what are some of the things that sometimes leaders do that aren't helpful, and doing other people's job for them. No.
Okay.
You got to figure out if this is their job, then why are you doing it? And I work with leaders all the time, and they're like frantic. They're working long hours. They work harder than anybody else in the company. And, the question has to come up. Is that their job or is that your job? Oh, that's their job. Why are you doing it? Maybe you hired the wrong person. Maybe you need to train them. Maybe they don't know what's expected of them. And by the way, I don't know if you heard that kind of shift. It's not a blaming. It's like, what do I need to do to bring out your best? Because perhaps you're not clear, right? Or perhaps you're not trained, or perhaps you don't have the resources you need, whatever it is. But if you all of those things are there and you're challenging, then I think it's wonderful to expect high performance. We feel good when we achieve high things, right? Doesn't matter if you don't feel good achieving high things, retire, right? So your employees feel great when they reach high goals.
Yeah,
just help them. You asked the question about so don't do other people's jobs. And ask yourself if you're doing that. But I think there are times when you may know things that they don't know. You may know people that they don't know. You may be aware of resources that they need to help propel them forward. And at sometimes there may be some head down times where you're going to stand beside everybody else and collate a report, because 15 minutes from now the company's walking into the conference room. And it's like, you're not standing at the head of the table, cracking the whip.
Yeah, right.
No.
Well, and I've been guilty of this out of impatience sometimes, where like I've been waiting for something to get done and I'll just go do it. And later I'm like, man, why did I do that? Like I just enabled them to, not only did I probably cut them, I didn't give them the chance to do it, but I probably stepped in their toes. Like I totally have caught myself doing that in the past, and I need to learn to get to not do that.
We teach. This is so good. This is so good, Jason, because I put this in the bucket of learned helplessness. When you help quickly, people learn to come to you for help. When somebody comes for you an answer and you give them a quick answer, pretty soon they stop thinking. They just come to you for an answer. And there are these leaders, they have paths in the carpet, right? Beaten to their office because people are saying, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Can you help me with this? Why? They're over helpful. It comes from a good heart, I think. Maybe it comes from a desire to achieve, whatever it is. But over helpfulness creates weakness. And we have to be, it's good to be strong. It's good to achieve. It's good to work hard. Now, you love people, stand beside them, support them, encourage them, congratulate them. But it's not about, let's just take a nap in the afternoon.
Right. Well, I like naps too, but that's separate. But so one thing that you mentioned, I think I've noticed is like, so for instance, when somebody comes to me with a question, I've gotten pretty good, not perfect at this, of saying, hey, when you come to me with a question or problem, I also want to hear your top few ideas of how to solve it. Like, so come with those answers. And then I'll usually ask, like, well, what do you think you should do? And then I'll kind of like work with them because I'm trying to, because here's what I realize is like, I could have 1,000 employees, but if they're all coming to me, not only am I not going to get anything done, but I'm not helping them grow. And eventually, like if I'm ever going to want to replace myself or reduce my necessity to be there in the business, I have to help them become smarter, better, help them learn to lead themselves and lead others.
So here's the question. All good questions, what you said, Jason. Wonderful. Here's the question. When someone comes to you with a situation, the first question is, what have you tried?
Gold.
See, now they know it's their problem. This goes back to this article written in Harvard Business Review years and years ago called Management Time, Who Has the Monkey? People walk into your office with a monkey and they have a goal. Give you the monkey. Now, sometimes the monkey is yours. It's your realm of responsibility or whatever. This is not about being hard-hearted and cold. But often the monkey is theirs. It's their job. And so the first question is, what have you tried? And and this is great. First time you ask this question to people, they're like, all of a sudden realizing they haven't tried anything. That's what you want. That's fine. So then you say, what might you try? Say, I don't know. You got to be ready for this. I don't know. So I love it. The eyes go to the ceiling, down to the floor, wherever. I don't know. So the next question is, who might know? Billy Bob over there in marketing, he's really good at this. Great. Would you do me a favor? Go see Billy Bob today. Come up with 3 things you might do to solve this situation and see me tomorrow morning. Don't even say to them, I will follow up with you, because now you've given yourself a job. Say, see me in the morning. Get on the calendar, see me in the morning. Tell me the 3 things and what you chose to do. Or, we'll make a decision together. And you still may need to be helpful, but what are you doing? You're keeping the monkey where it belongs. This drives leaders crazy all the time, taking these monkeys.
That's a huge tip, man. I'm so grateful for that. Thank you. All right. So listen, I know your time's valuable. We're running out of time. I'm so excited, man. Tell me about this book.
Yes. Well, The Vagrant, John David Mann.
Yes.
And Bob Berg too. So I knew Bob before John because of The Go-Giver. And I saw who helped him. And I had this story in my heart. I've had it in my heart for about 10 years about a high potential, highly talented leader who is basically engaging in self-defeating behaviors and doesn't know it. Who hasn't been there? I mean, everything, the main character is Bob. Everything bad that he does, I've done and more, right? So I had this story and finally I drummed up the courage to send an email to John David Mann and say, John, I have this idea for a story. And he gets a lot of these because I just decided to reach out to the best. And I think John is the best. So I thought, why not aim high? So I sent him a note. I said, I got this. And he knew about me from Leadership Freak and from Bob Berg. And we got on the phone. I told him the story in a nutshell. About 15 minutes later, he said, Dan, I got chills. I love this story. Let's do it. That's how quickly it happened. And that was about 2.5, 3 years ago. And 8 editions later, I think, till finally we actually got it on
love it
in print.
Love it. And that is being released here. I think I saw on Amazon, I looked earlier today, it's being released on the 19th, it looks like. And so this episode will be published right around there, around that date. And so for anybody who is looking to be inspired, informed, educated, and have some aha moments as to maybe some self-defeating behaviors they themselves are participating in, or things that they now can be more aware of, like, this is going to be an awesome read. I'm super excited to read it myself.
Yes. Thanks so much, Jason. Appreciate it.
Well, and Dan, would you prefer that people go to Amazon to get that, or are you going to make it available on Leadership Freak?
Right now, at the beginning here, any of the online retailers and your local bookstore could certainly use your patronage. Go to your local bookstore, and if you don't see it on the shelf, say, I'd like to get it. But anywhere books are sold, as far as I can tell, anywhere books are sold, you're going to be able to get it. And
right.
So I appreciate that.
Awesome. And then for those of you who are not yet following and subscribing to Dan's blog, it's leadershipfreak.blog. And you can subscribe to his newsletter, which, by the way, you have 500,000 people that are following you, which is amazing. Congratulations on your success, and thank you for being on the Life Inner Show, Dan.
Thank you so much, Jason. I appreciate it. Love what you're doing. I've listened to your podcast, watched you on YouTube. Love what you're doing. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. Man, awesome interview with Dan. What a cool guy. He's added so much to the body of knowledge of leadership, and I'm so grateful we had him on the show, dude. And like, as I said in the intro, man, half the things I'm asking for myself. And by the way, if you haven't figured this out yet for the Life Inner Show in general, like, this is how I'm trying to learn. And so you guys get to learn alongside us. One big takeaway from me, man, let's take turns here. So one for me was this relationship / results balance you got to get. You can't be best friends with your employees and grab a beer on a Friday night and then not get anything done in the office Monday through Friday. Like, that doesn't work. You got to find that balance of relationships and results. That was one big takeaway for me. What's one for you?
Well, so one big takeaway for me is at the beginning of the episode, he's talking about knowing who you are, right? Getting about who you are, being who you are as a person. I think that's such a huge thing. I talk about it with my students all the time. And he mentioned one line, says, if you don't know yourself, it's hard to lead yourself. And that just struck me. Like, if you don't know yourself, hard to lead yourself, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Being with yourself and spending that quality time with yourself. And he talked about self-care, but self-care towards helping others. It's one of those things that I think we need to do as leaders, because we're leaders all over the place, not only in business, in companies, and me as a coach, right? Me as a parent. So when we start looking from that perspective, knowing who you really are is huge. And this is coming from, he was talking about what, CEOs of like Southwest and,
oh yeah, man,
and companies, big companies. And that's what they're talking about.
Well, dude, and to that point though, like, I think how are you going to respect somebody if you're an employee or if you're a contractor who's leading you if they can't lead themselves? Like, and so I think this is one of the hugest responsibilities of a leader, is to learn how to do that for yourself. Like, and then you can lead other people. Like, if you can't get yourself to follow you, how are you get other people to follow you? Right. Cause you're a leader. Yeah, it's so true, man.
Exactly.
So something else that he kind of glossed over early on, I thought was valuable, that he said is, because kind of in regards to the origin story of the Leadership Freak blog, was like, he had these points of frustration and disappointment, and you can flip that on its head and use that as a tool to see where you need to improve and what you have to work on. And so that's actually, I think, an empowering frame for those negative emotions where you might feel like, man, this sucks, this isn't going well. Okay, cool. Like, that's telling you this is where you need to improve. So don't moan and groan about it, but do something about it. And so I thought that was powerful. You mentioned it in passing, but I thought that was valuable.
Yeah, there's a lot of good nuggets, man. Another one that I've got out of this is, he talked about that one person who went into that 3-day quiet retreat, right?
Oh, the silent retreat.
What?
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine that?
Silent retreat?
Dude,
for
can you
3 days
imagine not talking for 3 days, like literally not talking at all?
Me? I do it all the time, man.
You would die. You would die, literally shrivel up and curl up in a ball. Like, I
will tell you this. So listen, I just came back from my retreats. I was coaching in a coaching mode for 8 days. On Sunday, when I came back, I did not want to talk to anybody. I was just quiet, be quiet, don't talk to me.
That's funny.
The words that are not coming out of my mouth, all that kind of stuff. No, but listen, the serious side of things is this. You talk about that quiet, time. And then he also mentioned about the different question that he asked. Like one of the questions that he asked is someone goes, I wonder if you're selling yourself short. So the big takeaway from those two things that I got for myself is powerful leaders listen, and then they ask powerful questions. And I think those are the things that are qualities when you sit there and just listen and what is happening around you, what the people are coming into you and saying the different things and, how they are interacting with you. When you just sit there and take it in and then you ask a question, I think that's a great ways of leadership.
Yeah, man. Well, and along the point of asking questions, how about that section at the end? That this is a bomb drop for me. Like when he talked about learned helplessness, like when we solve other people's problems. And he said the question that he asked him, he's like, what have you already tried? Like, what have you tried? And I'm like, oh yeah, man, like that's great. Cause I mean, listen, you can have a team, but if you're still if you're the guru on top of the mountain and everybody comes to you to answer their questions, you're still the bottleneck. You've got to train and equip people to learn to think on their own and to come up with solutions that don't require you. And so that was great as well, man. I'm gonna totally dive into his. I did subscribe to his blog, so now I get notifications every day because I really this is an area for me that I really want to develop. This is important at the stage of life and business I'm in. For real.
Are you sure you're able to do that?
No, I'm not sure, but that's what I'm hoping.
I would just give up if I were you, man. I'll just stop. I mean, I don't know if that's going to work for you. There's exceptions to every rule, so you might be the one.
Yeah, I might be the exception. But anyway, awesome interview, dude. And by the way, check this out. The book, The Vagrant, that he talked about at the end. I just got this, man. Like, I cannot wait to dive into this. John David Mann, that he mentioned before, co-wrote with Bob Berg, The Go-Giver, which is another incredible book. We had those guys in the podcast as well. You have to read that book too. And so I cannot wait to dive into this. And it's told as a fable, as a story, just like the Life in Air book. So it's engaging. It's going to rivet you. It's going to grab you. You're going to see those nuggets for yourself and how this story applies to you and your leadership endeavors. So go out and get the book. It's going to be totally worth it. I guarantee it. And we hope you enjoyed this episode and got something out of it. And we say this every time, and I know you're probably sick of hearing us say it, but do something with this stuff. Like, this isn't just two pretty faces sharing like some funny.
Well, there's one pretty face.
Okay. All right. And then we have Peter. But anyway, do something with this stuff. Like, do something, because this really has the potential to do something and change your life. Hope you enjoyed this. We will see you next week, everyone. Take care.